Happy Thanksgiving Eve to all the Metal Summoners out there. We love you guys so much. This is the Metal Summit. Thank you as always for tuning in with us, joining us halfway through your week, on your hump day, setting things up for the end of the week. It's the only place that you need to be. It's the only place you should be, and it's exactly where we want you to be. As always, we're your island of misfit toys. We've got Angel, we've got Jason, we've got Psycho Steve. We are joined with Bobby Dreyer, and the fact of the matter is I'm Jay, but that's less about us. It's more about this guy. We've got Silvertide, singer, songwriter extraordinaire. We've got Walt Lafty with us today. How are you, brother?
I'm well. How you guys doing?
Cheers. We are doing great. We are doing great, man. Well, first and foremost, man, you're joining us during a very unique time when it comes to music. It's a topic that we've covered on multiple episodes of this show, so we're going to make it no different for you. Talk a little bit about what you had going on at the time. This is super duper unique for music. The world kind of shut down unexpectedly, and nobody's ever had to deal with that. What did you have going on around March, and what have you been doing since?
I was in the middle of recording my record with David Ivory at Dylan Eva Studios, and we kind of got shut down at a certain point. We spent almost 3 months not being able to have everybody in the room at the same time. But then gradually, as things started to, open up and things started to feel more comfortable, this tour. I said, yeah, I doubt we'll be able to get it. And, that was the end of the evening, nothing big. About 2 weeks later, we get the phone call from our booking agent and our A&R guy at the time. So the booking agent's name is Johnny Fidel. A&R guy is James Diener. Brilliant A&R guy. And they said, hey, you're going to be on the Van Halen tour. And we kind of really didn't even believe that it was happening. In my head, I'd heard so many things at that point. I'd been pretty deep in. We had already made our record. And I was pretty deep into the industry. I'd been nonstop touring at that point. I don't even, what year was that? I don't even know at this point. But we had spent a much longer time on the road than most bands from front to end. Like Shinedown had gone through 3 album cycles, I think, in the time that we were still on the road. And I'm not sure if that lines up with that exact time frame, but just overall, And Johnny Fidel was just like a magician, and he's one of those guys that he's a character, man. He just is so well connected. He has personal connections with a lot of these musicians. This guy, he booked the Allman Brothers. He has crazy stories that I can't do justice about Led Zeppelin. For a young guy like me at the time, he was a treasure trove of just wonderful stories and obviously a great connection to have. And, what's really interesting is to this day, I never signed one contract with Johnny Fidel.
Wow.
He's one of the only guys in the industry that works off of a handshake. And he's just that old school that when we shook hands, it was like, that's what this means, like we're locked. And, I look at him now as I'm a little bit older, more like a mentor, because his biggest hero in life was Muhammad Ali. So he has all these wonderful stories about talking with Muhammad Ali, just about being a champion and persevering no matter what, and no matter how many times you get knocked down, just get back up again. So Johnny Fidel is really the short and the long answer, and all roads lead back to him, not only for the Van Halen tour, but for Motley Crue, for Godsmack, for Alice Cooper, for Cheap Trick, all the radio festivals with Tom Petty and the Foo Fighters, and everything under the sun, really. Even when we did dates with the X's, and he somehow got us on the Japanese Tokyo circuit with places like the Liquid Lounge and stuff. So he just knew what to do, and if he was something that he was like, this isn't my area, he knew who to call to make that happen. So Johnny Fidel is the guy, always was, always, will be, that solved all that and figured it all out. I didn't think it was possible. He made that shit possible. That's why I call him.
I still think it goes back to you guys because your first album is fucking amazing. I mean, to come out of the gun, everybody says, their freshman album, this and that. Look, I didn't know who you guys were. And I remember Soundcheck and hearing you, and I'm just going, what the fuck is this? I'm going, oh my God, it's the Black Crowes on steroids.
I think it's funny because one writer actually wrote, it's the Black Crowes on crystal meth. And I use that to describe us to this day. It's just such a funny description. And I hated it back then because, no singer wants to be told that they sound like someone else. But again, it's like when you're new and you're young and you're insecure and you're being told these things, it's one thing and you're like, wow, I'm from Philly, fuck you, But when you get older, when you get a little bit older from it, you just kind of stop and you go like, thanks, man, I appreciate that because there's obvious differences between, a guy like me and Chris Robinson. Number one, he's successful. I'm sitting in my basement drinking Jack with all you fine gentlemen behind my gas pipes. So, in front of my gas pipes. So, I mean, there's obviously there's differences, but there's also differences that I hear and, in nuances and stuff. But, so while I appreciate that it all comes back down to us, I mean, we were very lucky. And I say that so many times when we were signed. I mean, I was 18, my guitar player and my drummer were both 15 and 16. We just were very weird because we were kind of dumb. We went out and bars would tell us we weren't allowed to play, and we insisted, and we kept handing them tapes, and we lied about our age, and we were just very persistent. We recorded a quick demo with a guy named George Manny, which landed on the lap of what would eventually become our manager and our lawyer, which eventually led us to David Ivory, who I've had a 20-plus year friendship with, and he's just always been a mentor and a friend. He's still teaching me things about songwriting, and I've known him for over 20 years. He has an uncanny way to teach me how to just listen and stop for a second and kind of let go of the wheel sometimes for the best of the song. So yeah, Johnny Fidel, I was the real reason. We were just lucky to be so dumb that we wanted to hang out everywhere all the time. From South Street at the Abilene, where we eventually fought for our residency after the band Town Hall left and went to bigger and better things. They needed someone, and we could get 6 people to show up to a bar. That was all. And then, and the guy Al Geary, who booked it, rolled the dice and said, yeah, screw it. I don't got anybody better. Throw them up. And, it went from there. And we were, I still say to this day, we were a punk rock band, like in the late 70s era. Like in my mind, we were a punk rock band masquerading as a rock band. We didn't become a rock band until after we had toured for 2 years because we were so sloppy. But there was a lot of energy. And, every night I would do things early on. Like I didn't want to work in a warehouse like my dad. So I would light myself on fire on stage. I would smash things. I made my own 36-inch bell bottoms, and I would jump off of fucking drums, upside down if I had to. And I don't know if you guys remember a band called At the Drive-In.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing them when I was, a young man, and a friend took me to see them, and when they're fucking throwing those microphones around, and I just went, oh my God, I'm never going to play with a wireless microphone ever again. And it was little things like that just kind of made us stand out a little bit more from our peers at the time, but also our ability to be so stupid and young and want to hang out with everybody. Even if they didn't like us, we didn't know because we were stupid. And wonderful guys like the guys from Pepper's Ghost, like, Michael and Anthony Monsanto, they kind of like took us under their wings, and, they weren't much older than us, but enough, where, we all just kind of started to go to this whole scene where we were going to places like the Adams Mark Hotel after we would have like a big show or something, and everybody would get hammered together and just be this giant family of derelict fucking Island of Misfit toy musicians in Philly, and all these great bands came out of that. If you're familiar with the Philly scene, guys like Pawn Shop Roses. There's just so many great bands. I mean, I don't want to say John Fay because John Fay was there well before us. He had already been well established with the Caulfields, but great bands like Ike. Everything started to everything was forming within like a 10-year period. And And in that 10 years, so many amazing, amazing bands were just kind of happening. And whether you liked their style of music or not was irrelevant. It was the level that a lot of these guys were playing at or attempting to play at. And the heart was there and the energy was there.
Very cool. Jay, back to you, brother.
No worries, man. It's all good. Walt, just because you mentioned it, that tour was 2004 with Van Halen, since you were talking about the year.
Dude,
Psycho
2020,
Steve.
facts matter.
Facts matter. Psycho Steve, we need that smile, brother. Get on in here.
Okay, so the question I have, how did the name come about, and what does it mean?
Okay, so the name at the time, we were calling ourselves Vertigo, which was obviously a terrible name. But not only was it a terrible name, but a name that was already claimed by a band in the 60s, apparently in England or something. Some faraway mystical land where things like Shakespeare happen. But so Nick Perry, our guitar player, one of my lifelong songwriting partners and friends, he was down the shore with a bunch of people, and we were just tossing names back and forth, and none of us were there except for him and I think his sister and a couple friends. And one of these girls looked up and said, "Oh, at night that's a Silvertide." And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "It's when the moon reflects off the water." And he kind of like put it in his head, and he was like, "Huh, I never heard that term before." And at that moment, he's like, "Well, I go down to Ocean City." He goes to Ocean City with his family every year, and he kind of came home and said that, and that was the end of it. And then we came up with our logo. It's a moon with waves kind of on the inside instead of just a crescent moon. It's like waves at choppy, and that's really the marriage of the two thoughts. It was the best thing that we could come up with the help of some design people.
Awesome.
Nice.
So Ocean City and Nick Perry hanging out with some friends and girls in short.
Hell yeah, man, for sure. Right on. Jason, let's bring you in, my good dude.
So, my question is, are you ever going to cut your hair? No.
No!
Don't do it!
No,
I go back and forth with it. I was funny because my hair is like, it dreads naturally, so it's very goddamn annoying.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so like I took a shower like 5 hours ago, and I used all this conditioner, and then I get out, and an hour later I have dreads forming, and I'm like, I looked at my wife like before I even came down here to do this, and I was like, I really should just cut my fucking hair. It's so annoying.
No, it's so.
No, I'm not. But you know what I mean? It's like,
so Jesus.
But then I stop and I grab a bottle of Jack and I pour another Jack and Coke. So, gentlemen. And then I change my mind. And I go down.
Yeah, I go back and forth myself too.
Plus, I always thought it was funny. You guys know? Are you familiar with Pierre Robert?
Yeah.
MMR, one of Philadelphia's longest-running, incredible rock DJs. He would always. He probably doesn't even know who I am half the time, but once or twice when I had short hair and I saw him, he'd be like, "Grow your hair, you freak." I always thought that was good.
We say that to Psycho Steve all the time.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
So I gotta ask, where does Psycho Steve come from? The name.
Gene Simmons nicknamed me a little psycho when I was 6 years old when I first met him. Because I got starstruck. I ran up to him, I'm like, "Oh my God, you're Gene Simmons." He's like, "Masugana, psycho." And it stuck.
That's incredible.
July 5th, 1980.
I mean, that's like being fucking knighted.
Yeah. Yeah. It was Eric Carr's first show at the Palladium. That's when I first met them.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Dude, that's crazy, man. That's such a fucking cool story.
I feel like there should be like a name registry like they have in Scotland for shit like that. Like they like. You should have a certificate, like, explaining this.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. You could actually they sell square footage of land in Scotland just so that you can call yourself like Lord and Lady. Legally. You just have to own property there. You don't even have to be a Scottish person.
You're like,
Lady Psycho Steve.
With all the war
Lord
and everything, I
Psycho
have to be
Steve. That's a good one to it.
Wait, what'd you say?
Dude, that's an amazing thing to hear, Jason. So the fact that you could be like a male, you could be a female, you could like consider yourself like a fucking turtle, but as long as you own land in Scotland, you can be a lord.
Yes.
Lord Psycho Steve.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. I know what I'm buying. Hold on. I'm going to look it up right now.
Dude, we got a show to do.
No, I think that's hilarious. So while Psycho Steve looks into being Lord Psycho Steve,
All right, so if anybody's paying attention right now, we have to raise some funds so that he
seriously,
can become Lord Psycho Steve.
Dude, that'll be fun.
We got a sponsor there now, Jay.
Yeah, but dude, that can also be part of our upcoming Patreon level.
There
Like,
you
if
go.
you want to be considered a Lord of the Metal Summit, this is a new level of Patreon that you can join.
Oh, found it.
Of course you did. Well, Psycho Steve's looking at that, and since we're talking about Patreon with the people that involve, Angel, let's bring in the Metal Summoners, dude. Let's hear from them.
Yes. Matt Porter. Hi, Matt. Carla Rice, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. Thank you so much for watching. I do have questions from the fans. Jason Worth, thank you for watching. Okay, let me get to the question. Kim Sullivan, welcome back. Thank you for watching as you do every week. Ignacio, thank you and happy Thanksgiving. Okay, question from Zachary Lowe.
Zach.
Hello, Zachary. I'm practicing my Lord wave.
Okay. So before his question, he says, damn, now I need to pour a bottle of Jack to join. And yes, you do. This one's for you.
Of course.
Cheers, Zach. This one's for you.
Cheers.
All right, we're going back at it.
Okay.
Double dipping.
Now to the question. Do you sell any merchandise? And if so, where would we be able to buy it? One of my best memories in high school was blasting Ain't Coming Home with the windows down. Really appreciate
Nice.
Silvertide bringing different during the end of nu metal.
Wow.
Really appreciate you bringing something different. I guess I should stop drinking during the end of nu metal. I forgot I got to read this stuff. Yeah, I got to stop drinking.
Okay, so real quick, while Angel's collecting himself, Walt, is there anywhere that fans can go to for merch with you right now?
No. I'm still trying to figure that out. I handle all this stuff myself. So it's a little time consuming, and I'm a father of 2 children, and it's time consuming to have all that stuff set up. So I'm hopefully in the next 2 months or so, I'll have something going. And in terms of the Silvertide stuff, if you're looking for Silvertide merch in particular, I still have to. My plan was eventually, once I get my own site up and running, is to build a merch section, but I have to get permission from all the other Silvertide members as well to be able to sell Silvertide merch, kind of mixed in with my own items, because I can still get our record from our record label, even though the ending of that relationship wasn't wonderful on both ends. They still do allow us to purchase our own CDs in large quantities to be able to sell them. So they're probably sitting somewhere collecting dust in a warehouse somewhere anyway. But in terms of my own merch, no, I don't have anything really set. The Silvertide stuff, anything I had, I think we spoke about before the show even started on this call. I might have 1 or 2 things. Usually I reserve anything that I have left for to kind of give away just the people that are in countries that never really got to experience this live that write me saying, hey, I just found out about your band. Like, I would really love to hear some stuff. You sell anything. And, I just kind of randomly dig through and see what I have, which is not much left. But, yeah, I'll try and figure that out. I'll talk with some of the other guys. That was Zachary asked that question.
Yeah.
Yep, Zachary.
Yeah, Zachary. I'll try and talk to Nick and talk to Brian and Mark and Kevin at some point and figure that out. It was something that I had wanted to do anyway, for multiple reasons. So yeah, sorry.
Okay. Matt Porter says the new lyric video is really fun. Can you talk about making that?
We did that.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah. It's one thing when it's mixed with Coca-Cola, like in this thing, but when it's straight, even after all these years.
I don't drink anything straight.
And that's why we love you, Bobby.
Even Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, dude. But by the end of this this episode, Bobby's gonna have a sponsorship from Dr. Pepper. Maybe reaching out, going like, "We need to get this man a can."
Yeah, but then his own porn star name is gonna turn into Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, that'd be great, Dr.
Damn,
Pepper.
I'm gonna go copyright that.
Dude, you better get on that right now. Psycho Steve.
Yeah, now there's Lord Psycho
Psycho
Steve.
Steve is done registering Lord Psycho Steve. He's got
I'm doing it right now.
Copyright Dr. Pecker.
I like this.
I'm torn. Should I do Lord Psycho Steve of UK or Scotland?
Let's do a worldwide distribution.
Oh, that's worldwide distribution.
Decisions, guys.
Dude, now you have
making
to sell,
me want to drink
you guys
more.
never start selling merch.
Yeah.
You have to sell Lord Psycho Steve hats, and then you have to
Yeah.
sell Dr.
And Dr.
Pecker.
Pecker shirts.
Dr. Pecker
Yes.
shirts.
Angel, write that down.
Yeah,
Why do I
seriously.
always get... Dude, I'm half drunk. You don't want me to write stuff down.
I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be
You're
like,
my scribe.
something about my pecker. I think I
Seriously.
have to go
Hey,
to a
wait a
doctor.
second. Are we allowed to drink? We don't want Governor Wolf shutting our asses down.
He'll have to find us first.
His wife approved. It's okay.
All right, sorry about that, Matt Porter. Angel, reel us back in here, dude.
Okay.
This note that I have says
We
that I have
have-
to go to a doctor about my pecker. What is this?
We have our good friend, our good buddy from Hammer Down Hard, Lonnie Hammer. He has a question. Hi, Lonnie. Thanks for watching. Silver Eagle or Prefest?
Or what? I didn't hear
Prefest. I can't even pronounce that right.
I didn't hear the second part.
Silver Eagle or Prevost. Prevost.
Oh,
It's a
Prevost.
bus.
Prevost.
Yeah, Prevost.
Yes.
Prevost.
Well, and my question is,
You just wanted to know which
yeah, you
one
just
I
want to
like?
know which one do you prefer?
I've only really been in a Prevost, so
Okay. So you never been on the...
I don't think I've ever been on a Silver Eagle.
No problem. I haven't either, so don't feel bad.
Not that I know.
We love you, Lonnie.
Thank you for the CDs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lonnie. Love them.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
And now to my question. During what have you been up to during the time of COVID? So how have you been keeping creatively? Have you been writing, planning on touring after Save 2?
Right now, I've been really just the past. So I'm going to back up for a second. So leading up to doing this record, I did something a little bit weird. I got drunk every Saturday night, which isn't weird, but what I did was I would write while I was hammered. I would basically do this thing every day when I was in my truck, half an hour drives and stuff. I would sing ideas into my phone, random melody, random drum beat, random rhythm, whatever. Then on Saturday night, I would get, Jack and Cokes or a bottle of Manischewitz, get fucking annihilated. And I love Manischewitz. It's sweet. It's delicious.
Yeah. What flavor? Do you go with the grape or do you go with the
Just
blackberry?
Concord. Yeah, just Concord. Great, regular Concord Manischewitz. And you can get the jug for pretty fucking cheap. So.
True story.
Yeah. But so I would get hammered, and then I would take all those ideas from the week. I would ping them out and go, which one fucking stands out to me the most, and then I would work on that idea. All of those songs that I did over a 4 or 5 year period worked up to the point of when I called David Ivory, which is the producer who's doing the record that I'm doing right now for the past year. And when I spoke with David Ivory, I was actually asking him. I was going to get my cousin on drums. I was going to try and record on I have this old Tascam tape deck. It's like a 4-track tape deck that I started out with when I was a kid, just doing demos on my own and learning how stuff like that operates. I was going to go up to my father-in-law's mountain house, take a bunch of magic mushrooms, get hammered, herb, and just record everything that I had worked on. And just after numerous conversations with David Ivory, he was like, "You're an idiot. Don't do this. You're just going to end up getting stoned and it's going to sound like trash. And you're just going to be like, what? Why don't you come up here and let's just talk about these songs?" So, there's a few guys that I really, really, really am pretty close with in terms of music stuff. And Mark Melchior, the Silvertide rhythm guitar player, is one of them. David Ivory is another. And Nick Perry from Silvertide is the other guy. And I can pretty much say that any three of those gentlemen, if I have a song idea and I'm in a room with them and they say it fucking blows, I don't take it as an insult. They want the best for me and the song actually fucking blows. There's no insecurities involved. I push it aside. And Dave heard all the songs. He goes, "They're great. You need bridges." There's no bridges in half them. So you should probably focus on that. And I said, "Yeah, well, I was, he goes, well, I know, you're working, you're writing music. I don't want to write them all the way through unless I know it's worth spending time on them because I write every day." So, so then he said, "Why don't you just hang out here and let's work on them together? Do it old school." So he has this old cottage where it's, an analog room. And we sat there and we did everything in the analog room before going into the main room. And the purpose of that was if a song in me and Dave's school of thought, and it doesn't have to be this way, but for some of the classic stuff that I love, James Taylor, CCR, just a lot of that shit. If you take away all the riffs, if you take away all the drums, if you take away everything, it's just a simple song that tells a story. And if it can't hold up in that very simple form, then it's probably not that good, and you shouldn't waste your fucking time on it. Unless you have some lick that's so goddamn incredible that you wake up and it's in your head every day where you're like, now I need to write a song around this. But I have never written I Can't Get No Satisfaction. So I'm not as good as Keith Richards. So, I'll settle for how I do it. So Dave and I went through all that. So push all that aside and getting to your point now about, being in COVID, a lot of this time has been spent really just listening to what we actually already recorded. So Dave and I had recorded with guys like Chuck Treese on drums.
Yeah.
Mike Kelly on bass. This dude Chell on something. We've had Damon Bennett on keys on a bunch of stuff. Actually, Chuck Treese's son was doing percussion stuff on a song. If I remember correctly. And then when the pandemic hit, it kind of took everything to a grinding halt. But it allowed us time to really get some distance between setting out on that journey and getting to where we are now. So the past few months, ever since that's ended, we've taken all the time that we took to kind of read through it and go like this. And some of the stuff we just threw out and re-recorded. We were just like, you know what? It wasn't that great. The song wasn't that great, or maybe the performance wasn't that great, or it was the wrong tempo or the wrong key. And we really took advantage of taking that time, rather than looking at it like this fucking sucks. That being said, I understand that I'm in a pretty good position that way, I'm not scrounging for nickels or anything like that. I'm a pretty fortunate, person. So I might not be wealthy, but I'm not in total poverty. So, we were able to really I was able to work right through the pandemic. A lot of people weren't. And I was able to just take the time at night when I'm not with my family or my kids to reflect on what we had accomplished, what we had done. Was it good enough? Was it worth it? Did it need to be worked on? A lot of the bridges and stuff that I thought were really great, Dave would say, I listened to this 20 times. It sucks. You can do better. You can do better. Go home and take this song home and rewrite the words, because the rest of the song sounds great, but your bridge sounds lazy as shit. Work on it. And I went, all right. And he was right. He was fucking right, because Dave's been doing it a long time. That's the whole point of a producer, is to hear these things that we as musicians might be like, nah, it's good enough, or whatever, that's the whole point. Outside ears, outside ears.
Absolutely.
That's what I've been doing, just reflecting on shit, just, and drinking, but mostly drinking.
Well, we always love that for sure. I mean, most of us, if not all of us, are always very friendly with the bottle when it comes to this, when it comes to that. But well, let me kind of piggyback off of what Angel asked you a little bit, because it also kind of reminds me of something that we talked about off the air when you talked about being invited by Bobby to partake in our show, and looking at, the title of our show versus what we're doing now, what you're doing now. I think this is actually kind of something kind of cool and kind of actually important to discuss. What was it about what you're doing now? So you had Silvertide, which, just like we discussed, is much more of that punky, bluesy, Black Crowes hard rock style, into more of that solo, more honest, much more of, I guess, what you would call kind of a stripped down sound, but definitely has that punchy rock to it as well. What was it about going that direction as opposed to maybe forming another band?
I have done, since Silvertide, 3 different bands. Mm-hmm. Some of them touring. Automatic Fire, which was probably my most aggressive band. It was very angry. One of my best friends had died. I was dropped from my record deal. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment that was underground with only fucking 2 windows. So, I was pretty pissed off. I think at one point my car even was completely just fried, and I was, taking a bus to get her. So I was just pissed off on an everyday basis. That anger, led to a lot of decision making and band stuff that was very reactive instead of proactive.
Sure.
Great players, Brian Weaver from Silvertide was playing bass in that band. Robbie Bennett from Pepper's Ghost, who's now in War on Drugs, or was in War on Drugs the whole time anyway. Guys like Brian Killian, who a lot of people up here might not know, but he's from here. He's from the Philadelphia area. He's one of my favorite drummers. He lives in Nashville. He's just he's a session drummer that kind of leans towards more country stuff. I went to high school with him. So all those experiences. And then I was in a band called Sinai with Nick Perry from Silvertide, and Shane Rosum from Jealousy Curve. And, all those experiences, I always felt like that when I was doing music in bands, as great as they were, there was always a compromise to some level. And you have to have that if you're going to be in a band. And let's be honest, we've all experienced this. You have an idea, you bring it to the table, and it gets altered in some way that maybe you don't agree with, but you just kind of go with the flow for the benefit of the whole, of the family of the band. And I had done that kind of with a democratic out view the whole time. And at the end of Silvertide is when I started to really switch and go, I made some pretty bad decisions near the end of that band, but it also showed me that sometimes you have to kind of, when you have an idea that you want to see through, sometimes it's worth it to kind of dig in and stick to your fucking laurels and just go, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, I'm really sorry, and just move on. And that takes a whole level of trust, a lot of in a band situation, it takes a lot of trust from the other people. And that's a hard thing to ask people. It's a hard thing to ask in a marriage with 2 people. Ask that of 4 other guys. It's going to get complicated. On top of it, I might not be the best musician by any measure. I'm not. I'll openly admit that a fucking 1,000 times. But I will outright most people in sheer volume. I do not believe in writer's block. I just write every day, no matter what. I write something. And where that comes from, to me, is if you write something that's honest every day, you will never stop writing. You just have to write something honest. Whether it makes you look good or not is irrelevant. You know, it doesn't matter. It's about the song. I have songs on this record that when it's all done, if those songs end up on the record, they're not going to make me look like a great human being. But they're an honest emotion that other people will hopefully relate to. And they'll say, hey, so those things, I think, when you're able to do that on your own with a trusted producer that you believe in and the producer believes in you, as I feel as though David Ivory believes in me and I believe in David Ivory, you start to look at things a bit differently. And, you know, it's not up to a guy like Chuck Treese to show up to a band rehearsal every week and believe in my ideas. He shouldn't have to do that. He should be paid on some level to show up and do this thing. And if he's into it, that's great. You know, same thing with the guitar player and stuff. And I'm not saying that over time I couldn't eventually form a band around that, but it has to start with what is this about? And it's like anything that you want to do. You know, you don't say, oh, I want to be a trapeze artist, but then hang out with flamethrowers. Like it doesn't, they might kind of make sense, but in all reality, you want to learn from the other trapeze artists. You want to be around them constantly. You want to know that you're doing stuff right, or you want to challenge yourself. You want to be trying to rise up to a larger place. And I'm not going to do that by being in a band with a bunch of guys that I love hanging out with. You know, that could eventually happen, and it probably will if all things go well. Knock on pipes. But you know, it's like, I don't know. I'm not opposed. I'm not 100% opposed to bands, but I think I jokingly, I don't even know if you were there for it, Bobby, when I was in the studio one night and Dave said something about a band, and I jokingly said, I will never be in a fucking band ever again for the rest of my life. And Dave and I were both cracking up laughing, because if you've been in a band long enough, you know that feeling. You just know that feeling on a guttural level. There's always one dude who just is fucking sloppy and shows up hammered, or doesn't show up to gigs on time, or just like, you know, doesn't take it serious and doesn't want it, or some dude that always fights you no matter what you're doing, or, you know, no matter what you suggest, it's fucking trash. You know, like everybody's going through these things if you've played in music long enough. And I'm just, you know, I'm nearing 40 years old. I'm done with the pretense. I don't want to sit there and hold someone's hand or make them feel better. I want people that want to be there, or they're paid to be there, to do a great job. And I think that's something that Dave, you know, kind of taught me, because I had a bunch of guys I wanted to even bring into this project. And Dave was just like, well, why don't you let me select some people that I know are going to work for this, and just trust me on this.
Yeah.
And I trust Dave. You know, Dave is one of those guys that, like, I could leave my wallet in a room with him for a year and he wouldn't dip into it. So I'm going to go with his suggestions. I hope that answers in some way.
No, absolutely, dude. Honestly, I thought that was terrific. And before I bridge it right into Bobby, because I want him to pick this up on that, I can definitely understand that, because we're all music guys, you know, or we wouldn't be doing this show. We all play. Most of us play in some type of way and stuff. And I can definitely understand that. You know, Steve's been involved with so many huge bands, you know, Angel, Bobby, Jason, all familiar with that kind of stuff. And it's actually kind of funny. I love the way you were talking about when you were kind of making that offshoot comment about like never being in a band again. Because the funny thing is, my buddy Mark, who I have talked with, you know, playing with if he wants to get his music back out, back out as far as touring and stuff. I had actually left music as far as playing live. I'd actually left music by the time I had that conversation. I was no longer interested in being, you know, just a hired gun or your punk bitch or like just the fucking 15th bass player that you're bringing in the last 6 months because nobody wants the gig. I was just kind of over it, you know. I'm too old to find God now. So like, you know, the thing about it is I was like, look, I don't mind a friend of mine hitting me up and being like, look, my dude fell out. I don't want to cancel this gig because I don't want to lose the money. Will you fill in? Absolutely. Totally cool with that. But it kind of comes with the disclaimer of like, look, man, keep looking for another guy though to join your band. Like it's probably not going to be me. So it was kind of one of those things where, but then, from the relationship I built with my buddy Mark and listening to his music, I kind of fell in love with it. So he knows that if he ever decides to take it out on the road, look, dude, just call me, dude. I will drop everything I'm doing to go and do it. So anyway, I know exactly what you mean when it comes to that whole kind of like, a band's thing versus a solo thing is a completely separate monster. It's a completely different way of doing things because you're right. There's those other opinions that you have to get whether you want them or not.
And if those opinions are coming from a place of honesty, if they're not coming, and that's the problem is when you're in bands, a lot of times you're dealing with a lot of people that, yourself included, that are bringing these insecurities to the table. And when they bring those insecurities, you should never be in a songwriting session where a guy is yelling out chords just because he wants to basically say that he wrote a chord in a song. And that's happened to me.
Oh, God.
So when you experience those things, you kind of walk away and you go, "Oy vey, like what is wrong with this situation?" And that's not coming from a place of honesty. And everybody has insecurities. That's just part of the way that life is. We have them. We either deal with them or we don't. But if you're not going to deal with them, to then regurgitate them and vomit them all over a perfectly good situation is only going to create chaos, and it's going to add. It's just going to make subpar music in most cases, because you're not thinking clearly. You're not like, I'm at a point now as a songwriter that, again, I mentioned that I'm not the best musician, but when I'm saying something in a song, it's because I meant to say it. But it's especially like once it's on a record, man, it's meant to be said at that point. And it's gone through all the stages. When I'm playing something, it's meant to be played because it's gone through all the stages. It's gone through the natural progression. And if you're just going to be one of those dudes that's just like saying, I want this or I want that simply because you have this ego behind you that wants to be in charge, it's gonna filter down, and man, and it's not gonna last. Every band goes through it. Every band has it. And I'm not even saying that I'm going to succeed at it. I don't know, but I know that I've drawn my line in the sand at this point of what I want to experience and what I want to create and what I want to do. And I have a group of people around me that are very wonderful at what they do. They're supportive. They're brilliant. And when they say something, it means something. Case in point, we were working on a song a month and a half ago called Life is About Letting Go. I thought the song was completely done. That everything about it was perfect. And we're doing some stuff on it. And Chuck Treese had already played his drum parts, and he's sitting on the couch, 15 feet away. And he says, "Hey, did you ever think about switching up your rhythmic pattern of a second verse delivery there?" And I was like, I didn't quite understand what he meant. And then Dave was like, "Yeah, instead of doing exactly that same thing, he's saying, do you ever feel like switching up?" I was like, "No, I really hadn't." So then I switched it up and did something that was a little bit, of a different rhythmic pattern on the melody. And it made it a lot better, and it was one of those circumstances that I knew he was going to open up his mouth because he meant something good for the song as a whole.
Yeah.
And that's a rarity. Guys like Chuck are rare. There's a lot of guys that just want to run their mouth and just say shit because they want to say shit. And that's after being in bands, as I'm sure, again, you've all said you've been in bands, you've been in projects, you've dealt with this, or we were the ones doing it. When I was younger, I'd be like, I need to come up with an idea. I haven't had an idea in an hour. Let me say something. It's, and you say something, you're like, that was stupid. Why did I just say that? But,
absolutely. 100%. Bobby, pick it right up, brother.
So, Walt, the great thing is you mentioned about people that you worked with. So I had the opportunity probably about a little over a month ago to go over to Dave's with you. Band I was working with, Mach 22, young guy, Rick Haas. When I was working on their new EP and that, Dave helped me out. And Dave goes, "Man, this fucking guitar player is amazing." So Rick is working on with Walt. Probably one of the best compliments I could say now the song that he's working on, the first person that I heard, Chris Stapleton.
No.
I hear you pulling shit out, and Rick is a 21-year-old old soul. Plays very Don Felder, very Joe Walsh. He's such an Eagles guy, and I'm going, motherfucker, I haven't heard shit like this in a while. And like you said, when you work with musicians who play for the song, it's incredible. It's just great. Chuck is a fucking genius and a half.
He's a musical drummer. He's a and I mean that in the sense of like he's writing melodies when he hits time or something. He's painting with the drums, and that's a whole different level, man. He's like, I've learned so much from that dude. It's insane just by playing with him.
But the great thing is you came from ego to where now you're coming into your songs are very personable. It's definitely coming from the inside. And what I've seen, and I'm like, man, this is just fucking amazing.
Thank you.
And it hasn't been seen, and that's what I love. And the Chris Stapleton thing to me is a huge compliment, because it's great to see music going from that end, whether it's Terry Luce and a lot of the artists we've had on the show. They're finding out with this pandemic, you really got to bring what's inside out. That's what's going to be pushing your career forward.
I mean, it goes even beyond that. I think that there's a saying that I'm going to totally botch, but this dude brother Sal said it to me, and it kind of left me standing there for a minute, and he probably didn't realize that it left me standing there, but it did. And he said it doesn't matter what you're singing. It's if it's believable. And that I think says a lot, because if you're not writing from a place of yourself, of honesty, of truth, if you're not writing from that place, if you're projecting fantasy or something else, and look, you could be like, totally out there and be doing fantasy, that you'd be like Dream Theater or something like that, and doing crazy off the wall progressive shit. That's not to say that's not something you can do, but if you're just like a singer like me, this one dude, and you're not being honest, if you're not being honest in your words, if you're not being at least as honest as you can be, that that you are, then it's not going to be believable. It's not going to translate. And I firmly believe that. It took me a while to really understand that, but I firmly believe it now. If you're not writing down an honest feeling, like my father-in-law passed away last November, and he had left me and my son a bunch of guitars, and I didn't really play them for a while. I was never a Les Paul guy. I always had, some of my good friends played Les Pauls really well, and I always felt like I couldn't do it. But, as I finally kind of got over the whole, like, all right, he's gone. He's not coming back. This man that I loved and who I had learned so much from. And it was all unexpected in like a 14-day period. After that dust settled, and I finally, opened up that guitar case and pulled that guitar out and started to strum it and play it and do some licks on it. I went into two different directions with it, and I ended up writing a song in an hour and a half that I don't even know if it'll be on this record or not, but it's about him, and it's very honest. It makes no mistakes at all about ascertaining that. In the first opening line, it says, "As I held your hand beside your bed and sat there crying, I never asked you for the deathbed wisdom that you gave." And that's just the first opening line. And then in the second one, I talk about how, there was on the corner sat a guitar with a thick layer of dust you always meant to play. And he would constantly, I would ask him every time we'd see him on Sundays for coffee or something, say, "Hey, you play your guitar?" Nah, I had work to do. Didn't have time. And he said that all the time. And that really left a big imprint on me. And when I picked up that guitar and, I wanted to go to bed, it was 2:00 in the morning, and I stopped and I went, "You know what? I have to take my own goddamn advice. I bet he wishes he was here, penning this song right now at this moment." And that has to, those moments have to be, if you don't allow them, if you can't just be vulnerable and just say it, then you know what? You're missing the point. and it takes a long time, I think, to be able to understand that and share that and be like totally cool with it. And I am, I'm totally confident with saying, yeah, I love it. I love another man.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that.
Just that honesty, just let it out and just be cool with it, not to get all like, bro stuff on everybody, but, it's the whole point. And that honesty can be anything. It could be, you want to be like Buck Cherry and write a song about cocaine. That's cool. As long as it's honest. I don't give a shit if it's a fist pumper, as long as it's honest. I mean, that song you were talking about, having Haas play on, that's the song about relaxing, but it's the most up-tempo song in the whole record. It's like, it's about sleeping in a hammock. But the whole song's like a fist pumper because it, that whole line thing where it's saying, the opening line for that song is a nice car. I bet the loan sucks. Your new phone costs $900. I feel like we just worked to give it away. Yeah, all this waste. We could build a cabin in Maine. And that's that whole opening section of that song. And it's like, dude, that's how I honestly felt. I'm pretty pissed off that I'm constantly slaving away and working at the grind like everybody else. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to play guitar every day. I want to be around musicians that love what they do every day. I want to be sitting there learning about 1/2-inch tape and 1-inch tape and 2-inch tape and how all the machines work and digital recording and different compressors, and there's a lot of us that are like that. And that song to me was just like that. The hammock is the symbol of that to me. It's like the ability to say, I'm just going to sit in this hammock and smoke a joint. If you can do that, you can hang out in the studio.
I love watching Steve's face doing the Cheshire Cat grin.
Oh, absolutely, because he knows on that note that I'm going to pull him right into this. So come on, Cheshire Cat, let's hear from you.
So I want to go back to, since you did direct support for Van Halen, as we lost the great one recently, unfortunately, losing Eddie and everything. Can you talk about like any stories sharing the stage with Eddie? Like, did he like go on the side of the stage and watch you guys perform?
Yeah.
Did he give you any words of encouragement? Was he cool? Like the whole band?
Yeah, he was. Everybody was really nice. I think Alex was probably the most reclusive out of everyone. Sammy and Michael Anthony had a bar under the stage every night. So if there was like a guitar solo going on that was like really lengthy or some kind of drum thing happening and they didn't need everybody on stage, that was the cue. So like if you've seen the tour for 3 or 4 weeks, it was like, all right, you kind of get a gist of what's happening. Go downstairs, hang out at the bar. That was just like, it was a cool vibe. Eddie, first night walked into our dressing room, hammered out of his mind. And he just started talking to us and started telling me something about how, he thought he got tongue cancer from his guitar picks, from the coating on it. And then he showed me, where he had like a cut on his tongue from surgery recently. That was pretty wild. But then he smacked me and he went, oh, I'm smoking, and he lit up a cigarette. He goes, but now you only need I drink smoking loon wine. Now you only need a tick at the end of it. And he thought that was the funniest thing on the planet. It was like a moment where I was like, oh my God, Eddie Van Halen does old man dad jokes like my dad. It's awesome. Like, this is really awesome. And he was, he's a very personable guy like that. He just would hang out. There was plenty of scenes where like I would cut a corner and I'd walk out of a bathroom or something and go into my dressing room and he'd be sitting there with my guitar player Nick and just like they'd be like jamming and I'm like, and I would just stand there in the doorway like, this is fucking surreal, man. This is Eddie Van Halen. He's just a nice guy, and all of them really nice. Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony is a sweetheart, just a really, really genuinely open-hearted, kind human being that just, seemingly always wants everybody to be happy, and wants everybody to have a good time. Sammy is the same. He actually invited us to play at his birthday party, and he put myself and all my bandmates and their significant others up in private rooms in Cabo San Lucas for 2 weeks. And then when we were done, or right around that same time frame, paid for us to go from our 15-passenger van to a tour bus. And and he said, look, I'm going to get a trailer. It's going to be wrapped. It's going to say Cabo Wabo Tequila because that was his thing. He's like, so you're going to be like a billboard, right? He's like, but in exchange, you get to go from a 15-passenger van where every time you guys get out, you know, and beer cans fall out and cigarette smoke and weed are pouring out of the thing. Instead, you get to do that privately inside of a tour bus with a driver. So, you know, he paid for the rental of the bus and everything for a good couple of years. And it really was a big moment for us because we had been out on the road for, I think, 2.5 years or something like that at that point when he did that. It was after the Van Halen tour, a bit after it. But when he did that, it was like most bands that we knew had gone out, played shows, went home, made another record, came back out, and we were still out in a 15-passenger van. Maybe even our second one, I think we blew the transmission in somewhere in California at one point, in a Mojave Desert windstorm at 70 miles an hour that blew the door off backwards. Crazy stuff. And it's funny because, you know, it's like when people ask about touring and stuff, you know, you brought up Van Halen, it's obviously a big point, but, you know, when you're touring that often, it's like, I called it the black hole because after 3 months, everything became the same. But that's the stuff I always remember is like the moments where, like, you know, Eddie was like doing something funny, or, you know, Sammy one day I came out and he overheard me say, man, I didn't eat yet today. I got to find something to eat. And he walked up to me and handed me $175. He goes, here's my per diem. Get yourself some fucking food and maybe wash your clothes. And so it's like, you know, just like really, really like those types of like really personal moments, I think are the things that I remember the most. And, you know, breaking down in the Mojave and one of my favorite moments that I always say, it's like to all my friends, it's like a famous story because I've told it so many fucking times probably. But me and my rhythm guitar player, Mark Malkior, were still to this day very, very close. And we would always like be like kind of like our own little camp and like be brainstorming ideas and stuff. And I always remember on the Van Halen tour at one point, I think it was Van Halen tour, we broke down in a desert and we realized that we didn't have our jack. We only had the lug. So we had a flat tire and we couldn't get the trailer tire up. So we sat there for like 20 minutes and everyone's freaking out. We had no cell phone service. And like when you're in the desert, if you've ever toured through the desert, it's like you're really at the mercy of time and just hoping to God somebody drives through and has a jack, you know. And we sat there long enough that we went, wait a minute. And we loosened the lugs as best we could. And then we dug everything under the tire while piling rocks under the axle so that we could remove the tire without a jack. And it was probably like, that's when I knew we were like pretty weathered at that point. But you know, it's like moments like that I remember those type of moments, and I remember the really personal moments with all these guys, you know, you know, what's the name from Cheap Trick walking in to our dressing room and going, guys better not be talking to my daughter. Something really funny. He's a really great sense of humor. You know, Alice Cooper was another one. I think he humored me when I did the Wayne's World scene, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, he didn't have to do that.
Right on. That's freaking cool as hell.
Dude, that's so fucking rad. Absolutely. Jason, let's bring you in, my good bro.
So, Walt, Walt is, who were you named after?
I'm named after my grandfather.
Okay. Walt. Okay.
Pretty boring.
Yeah.
It's a family name. It's not Walt Whitman or anything, you know, clever. It was my grandfather was dying of cancer at the time, and my parents went, you know, it would be a wonderful idea if we name him Walter in 1981 when no one has the name Walter. It'll be perfect.
Well, that's cool though.
Yeah.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Huh.
Like, is there anything, let's say, you're doing the music thing, let's say that, is there anything that, like maybe a book or something, or
No.
or like
I'm not. I stick to songs. I don't think anybody would want to hear a book about a skinny Irish guy from Northeast Philadelphia. I just don't. I feel like that there's just, I don't know. And I was lucky enough once to be in a movie called Lady in the Water, and while it did throw some money around, which was nice, it also taught me that I'm probably not cut out for anything other than sitting in a studio and learning from much smarter and better people than me. So I think, at best case scenario, I think that I would like to be, working on record 2 or 3 in 5 years with Dave Ivory, just with a bigger budget, so I can pay Chuck Treese more money, and Dave's not calling up favors and stuff, and I think that would be a really great scenario, and as long as it's not rushed and it's not on some label or something saying, oh, you need to be done in 3 weeks. I think it'd be nice to be financially independent as a songwriter and musician. And I think it'd be really great if I was financially independent, and I was able to be doing those things, that I would probably try my best to see if I could get into some kind of a music college. I've never gone to college. I've become obsessed in the past 2 years with just trying to understand really a lot more about music theory and composition in general, and all the little dorky things like secondary dominance and stuff that really get me off now. I would love to learn more about that and understand it better. Unfortunately for me, I'm kind of an idiot, so I can fix if you have a steam boiler that's from like the 1920s, I can fix it like that, and I can understand how the whole system operates just by looking at it, or even a hot water heater, or a hot water boiler, or running some outlets. I can do that shit. But when it comes to like learning things on my own, sometimes I take a very long road to get there, and so in 5 years I would love to be learning from people that have dedicated their entire lives to teaching music theory and teaching music composition. I know that places like Berkeley even have opened up degrees. They call them professional degrees, but they're for songwriting, for contemporary songwriting. And I hope that schools like Montgomery County Community College, I hope that they they'll continue to grow their incredible programs already, so that they can hopefully have pop songwriting, things like that, as more of a staple mixed in with the music technologies and basic music degrees, so that guys like me can roll in and go, yo,
it's really cool.
I can go from A to G, but
it's really cool that you want to keep learning. That's definitely the way to go. You had mentioned that something triggered my mind when you were talking before about Lady in the Water. That's the M. Night Shyamalan movie. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. That was filmed in Bucks County. You were in that movie?
Yeah. So we were asked to play 2 Bob Dylan covers in the movie "It Ain't Me, Babe" and "Maggie's Farm," which we did. It's very up tempo. I'm like screaming in them, a lot of energy. And then as part of it, we were asked to come and basically be in the movie. So for like 2 weeks, we're hanging out in Levittown area, just on set. And it was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. And I mean, that guy's a genius and he's a sweetheart. So it was cool to do that.
Sorry, it's so funny. I used to live around the corner in Levittown from while they were filming it at the location down the street. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if you were local at that time, were you like cursing them for like higher traffic and annoying stuff, or were you like applauding
absolutely not. I was trying to get in.
Nice.
the guy was like,
I grew up in Levittown.
I was like, what's going on here? And he's like, they're filming a movie, and I was trying to get in, but he wasn't letting it happen.
Oh wow!
They had good security there, but I think that the building.
Too.
I think that lot that they filmed it on used to be an old 3M location.
Yeah, right on Bristol Road.
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet. I was smelling glue and I didn't even know it.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to watch that movie again.
Yeah, I'm only in it for like 5 seconds.
Wow.
But I got mentioned at the end in credits. My name's in it, along with all my bandmates.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I'm looking at it. It's if you go on to the Wikipedia page, it's got you right there for Maggie's Farm and Ain't Me Babe.
Yeah.
They actually built.
The famous scene from the movie Blow. One of my favorite scenes with Johnny Depp, where he says he's in front of the judge.
Yep.
And he's like, "It ain't me, babe.
It ain't me, babe.
No, it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe."
Wow.
They actually built that set right there, like that whole entire big, huge building. That they built it for that reason.
Wow.
Dude, that's super duper rad. So let me jump in real quick on that, because I had done a couple of interviews just in my previous niche with some people that have performed, musicians that have performed in movies, and asked them their opinions when it came to playing in a movie. Like, were you guys able to just play straight through? Did you have to do like cuts and takes and all that kind of stuff, or were you able to do your parts pretty seamlessly?
I mean, we weren't playing an incredible role or anything like that, so it was pretty much just like film. And we stood there. We were in like a party scene. We had no lines or anything. They told us to talk to each other. Like they were like, "Talk amongst yourselves." But other than that, it was we spent more time in the studio. We were one of the guys that was doing everything, kind of set it all up, and then M. Night actually came to the studio to listen to everything, and he actually sat down with me one night. I guess I had done a shitty take, and he sat down. He goes, "Can I talk with you for a minute? Do you know what this song is about?" And I was like, "Nope." Because I was just not a Bob Dylan fan at that point in my life, and it was like my first real introduction to Bob Dylan. I came from theater and stuff, and I grew up listening to Zeppelin and Iron Maiden, and when it got to Bob Dylan and stuff, I just hadn't gotten to that point yet where I was like, "Oh yeah, I know Bob Dylan." So when they said the songs, I was like, "Oh shit." So that was pretty much my whole experience, was just feeling really nervous and out of place, and I felt almost like a fraud. I felt like they picked the wrong guy or guys. My band was good. I didn't know jack shit from Dylan other than all the Rolling Stone and stuff like that.
Hey!
I got you, brother. Because I had done some interview work with My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, who are featured in The Crow. Yeah. If you're familiar with that movie, as like the house band that played in The Crow. So I always kind of I always get curious, when musicians are in movies, to kind of hear their opinion on that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the reason I had to ask, for sure. But hey, Angel, let me kick it over to you, man, because it's been a second before we've heard from the fans, and I definitely want to bring them in, and then I'll hit up the sponsors after you.
Cool. Lonnie Hammer wants to know, what are the top 3 newest bands you listen to?
You rock, Lonnie.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Lonnie. Wow. I'm going to screw up the name, the way it's pronounced, but Aaron Lee Tazjan. I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation. He's one of my favorite contemporary songwriters. He actually just released a song the other day that's very a friend of mine was saying it sounds like, she wrote me and sent me a text like, "Have you heard this yet?" I was like, "No." And then I listened to it immediately and then sent it to 20 people I know. It sounds like Tom Petty, but like way more contemporary, like keyboard driven. And I'm a big Tom Petty fan, so Aaron Lee Tasjan, if I'm pronouncing it properly, I still don't know. I'm a huge fan of his songwriting. Willie Nelson's son, Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real, probably had my favorite record of the past few years.
Wow.
And the record is called Turn Off the News and Build a Garden with Me. And it just starts out with it feels like a very old school live rock record, the way it was recorded to my ears. And it just sounds like they played through in a room together. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I didn't even know it was him. I didn't know that it was Willie Nelson's son. I had stumbled upon it on a playlist. I went, ooh, that's a cool song. And then I started playing the song. And then I went to get the record, and I listened to the whole record. So yeah, Lucas Nelson, The Promise of the Real, and the album Turn Off the News and Build a Garden with Me. Top three. I've spent a lot of time with Tom Petty's Wildflowers lately, but I wouldn't call that contemporary. But it's one of my favorite records, and my friend Ari and I always talk about different songs off that record. And one of the ones that was my friend Ari's favorite song has quickly become one of my favorite. What is it? It's time to move on. It's time to get going. What lies ahead? I got no way of knowing. None of the grass is growing. It's under my feet. The grass is growing. It's time to move on. It's time to get going. Na. Just a great record. Great album all the way through. But did Lonnie ask modern? I think the jack is kicking in.
Not new bands, but
newer bands. Yeah.
Hey, it's rock and roll, so it's
rock and roll, brother.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm blanking out. I'm sure there's one that's out there, but I always go to classics. Like, I know it's not in vogue to say so now, but Ryan Adams. Anything with Ryan Adams, he's always been a solid guy from all the stuff before he went solo. That was a little more ruckus up until one of my favorite records by him is Easy Tiger. Just the tones on that record are great. All the players, are just fantastic. And it's some of the best pedal steel I think I've heard in a long time. But all those guys are seasoned guys. They're just fucking superior,
Hell yeah.
And we got a question and a comment from Brian. Well, the comment is towards Jay. Gene Simmons wants his sunglasses back.
Fuck you, Brian. This is my look, man.
And Brian wants to know, what is your go-to entertainment when in Philly, and what's your favorite venue, past or present?
Christ. Past used to be North Star. I had a lot of fun at the North Star. I don't think it exists anymore. There used to be this venue on top of Pizzeria Uno's on South Street. That doesn't exist anymore. That's a past one. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun there as a young man, and I'll always remember it. The Abilene, for anybody that's followed Silvertide for a long time, that was our home for a long time. It was a narrow, skinny-ass bar, and by the end of our residency there, after a year, it would be packed, and we'd have to load our equipment through the back somehow. But TLA I think always holds a special place in my heart because it was the first time I sold out the TLA with Silvertide. I was I think 19 years old or something.
Wow.
And I remember that feeling walking on the stage and just being in sheer shock that many people would actually come to see a local band. I was like, what is this? I don't know what's happening. And then I got hammered and I just climbed up the rafters and stuff and jumped into the crowd off the balcony. Had fun.
So did you ever get to play Dobbs or the Trocadero?
Oh yeah. Played the Troc. Troc's a great place. They do Troc actually. I didn't get to go this year because of the pandemic, but they always do Rocky Horror Picture Show night. where you get to like throw the rice and everything. It's a good
Yeah.
time. Yeah, they do like a whole movie night thing there. Dobbs was a staple. I mean, if Pontiac Grill before that, but if you and you know, some of the older guys like me, or you know, John Fay and you know, Brett Talley, Paul from Pawn Shop, the Montesano brothers from Pepper's Ghost, and you know, all these guys. I mean, even you know, Bob Cahill, who I just did a podcast with like a week ago. All those guys remember Pontiac Grill, and then when it changed over to Dobbs, and they used to have this. It was like a pillar in the middle of the stage. I shit you not. It was like a support structure type of thing, but it was like in the middle of the stage. So you'd be fucking playing, and there was like this thing that was there, and you were just like, oh, okay, yeah, cheers. It's just very odd, but you got, you know, after like 3 times, you got so used to it that was just part of the vibe, and then they eventually did something where they kind of did something to make it not look like it was there.
It's actually kind of funny. I'm going to keep it with Angel, of course, but there's actually there's a punk bar here in Baltimore called Motley. Will you take off, buddy? You're in the way. There's a punk bar here in Baltimore called Auto Bar that gets all kinds of great bands, and a lot of like bands play there like before they break, like a band like the Black Veil Brides that would never play there now. Definitely played there then. But yeah, dude, they literally have a support beam that goes right through where like the lead guitarist would like stand and stuff like that. It's so hilarious. It goes like right through the front of the stage. So sometimes you might think you have like the greatest spot in the world to watch a band play until you realize you can't see a member of a band because of a fucking pole.
Yeah, they need to put like mirrors on the wall, like it's a strip joint or something, so you can see angles. It's hilarious. It just always reminds me of like Spinal Tap. Like whenever you're in those circumstances, like every scene from Spinal Tap.
Hello, Cleveland.
Hello, Cleveland.
You couldn't make the puppet show smaller.
Seriously.
Like, you know, it's like all those moments just really, really, really translate. When they get lost behind, you know, trying to get to the stage, and they end up in like the boiler room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Angel, still with you, brother.
Cool. Oh, I forgot this question from Brian, and you don't have to answer it. It's totally up to you.
That's always a good start off. That's a good sales pitch. You don't have to answer this. What size is your... No, what?
What band or artist you would not tour with?
I'm sorry?
What band or artist would you never tour with again?
Freddie Mercury, because he's dead.
No, he meant people that piss you off.
I'm just being an ass. I'd probably not tour with Freddie Mercury because I'd be afraid he'd blow me off the stage every single night.
Well, I think you'd do
He
more
would level
to
me.
blow you off the stage. No.
Yeah, probably. That's a poor choice of words on my behalf.
Dude, it's rock and roll. And we've all drunk too much.
Simple, Daddy.
I don't know. You know, I always say that the music business, when you play all those kind of weird festivals and tours, I always say never because there's always been circumstances where I had one opinion of someone, and that opinion completely flopped in another meeting. And I have a great example of this. The lead singer of Nickelback. I had met on I was doing Sturgis one year. And after our set, he said some things to our drummer that were, by most people's descriptions, pretty condescending. And then I saw him in Cabo San Lucas at Sammy Hagar's birthday party. And he walked up and he was like, "Hey man, last time you saw me, I was going through some shit. Can I grab you a drink?" And it was like a total flip, you know? And I think that it's just it was something that I just really understood more as I've gotten older, that everybody's allowed off days. Everybody is allowed to they have shit going on at home. They have shit going on stage. They have money problems. They have all this shit going on. You never say never, because you're never going to know what your fan base is going to be. You don't know what bands are going to cross-ventilate with you well. Like, we opened up for Def Leppard, and I thought it was going to be the worst show ever. And we sold more merchandising that night than we had ever sold on any tour.
Wow.
in an evening, you know, and that's not anything against Def Leppard. I just didn't think we would be a great pairing for a Def Leppard opening slot. But it worked. For some reason, their fans were just really open-minded, and they were really, really generous, and they had a great time. And it didn't hurt that I got to hang out with Billy Squire that night, which was really cool. Because the last time I'd seen him was in New York at a bar. Through a friend introduced us, and we just had a great time. And all those things wouldn't have happened if I would have said, no, that's a bad idea. You know. So I don't think there is like a real limit. I mean, maybe like Guar I would turn down now because I feel like that their fans would just like Viking string me up for fun, you know.
Why you don't like wearing pig blood all over you?
They're like, who's this fucking asshole with an acoustic guitar on stage? Like, what is he doing?
Yeah. Like, I can definitely understand where you're coming through with that, Walt. Angel, totally stay with us, man. I'm just making an offshoot comment of what Walt was saying because one of the last like big tour that I was involved in is I was out on tour with the Misfits, and so
that's awesome.
I get a lot of people. This was before the reunion, so this was back me touring when it was Jerry's Misfits. And so basically, long story short, because I don't want to draw this out, but you get all the people saying that like, well, Glenn Danzig's a dick, Jerry Only's a dick. Here's my thing about it. I've never met Glenn. Yes, I've heard plenty of stories about the guy, but I've got friends that have met him that have been like, dude, he's the sweetest guy. It's Jerry that's the asshole. I'm like, well, look, let me tell you, I toured with that guy. He still treats me like one of his children. Like the last time that the Misfits played Baltimore when it was Jerry's Misfits, the girl I was dating at the time, it was a really loud concert. She didn't have any earplugs, and it was starting to hurt her. She was getting really uncomfortable. So I went to Kenny, the merch guy, who remembered me from the tour, and I was like, Kenny, sorry to bother you, buddy, but my girlfriend's having ear troubles. Do you have any earplugs? Literally threw me his laminate so I could get back in the venue with her. And he was like, look, dude, just go to the bus stop, knock on the door. Jerry will hook you up. He brought me in, gave me a bag full of earplugs for my girl. So I can definitely understand that. Different strokes for different folks, bro. It's just, you meet people at different times, but it's all about those different personal relationships. Just because somebody was one way doesn't mean they're going to be that way another time. For sure.
We're human beings, you know?
Exactly. 100%. Angel, right back to you, bro.
Cool. I'm just going to get to one more comment and my question. We have a fan from Canada at Niger. You need some Canadian content. So it leads to my question. Have you ever toured Canada, and what was it like touring up there?
Yes, I did 2 tours in Canada. One with actually 3. I'm sorry. I think 3. I think I may have been there with Van Halen, but I'm not positive. I know I was there with Motley Crue and Sum 41 and the Xyz. And who the hell else was I there with? Velvet Revolver. That was it.
Who is that?
Velvet
Revolver.
Velvet Revolver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I did the first like 6 weeks of when they announced being a band and they were going to go on the road and they released their record.
Fuck.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So, so the question about Canadian content. What is?
No, have you ever toured up there? And what was it like touring through Canada?
Oh, Canada. It's amazing. If you've ever, anybody's ever been, it's an amazing place. I really, really, really love Canada. More the people there, I feel like are very. I know it's a joke to say people are super polite, but everybody thinks of like the South Park episode or whatever. But I just felt like it was very inviting. You know what I mean, though. Like everybody like jokes around about that, but I felt like everybody was very inviting there, and actually it's before pot was like any type of thing in the States legal wise or medicinal. We have a song called Mary Jane that's very openly about weed, and we would open up sets with it a lot because it starts out with a really high tempo snare thing. It goes boom boom it was a great opener to just kind of be alarming and jarring to people. It'd be like, oh, opening band that we don't know is on, you know? So there's a machine gun sound, you know? We should probably turn around and stop peeing, you know? But so, yeah, when we went up there, and I always thought it was very bizarre because I'm like on stage and I'm playing and I'm like, stuff's hitting me. And I'm like, what the fuck is hitting me? Like, what's going on here? There were joints. Because I said, smoke them if you got them. This song's about smoking a joint. And fans in Canada were throwing weed at us.
Yay!
Like what a super. And I was like, and my drum tech at the time, who's a wonderful human being. His name is Stephen Edgerly. We called him Three, for three reasons. One that I won't get into. One, because he loved Hank Williams III. And the other one was because he was our third roadie, and we didn't fire him. So we fired like 7 and 8, and at that point, but we kept him. So he kept the name Three, and he looked at me, and he's like, he had hair down to his butt at the time, and a giant exorcist tattoo on his arm, and he just looks up like this, like, huh, like, what's happening? And I'm like, I look at him, I was like, get the weed. And he starts running around, and he's just like picking up all these, and he just comes back. He's got this like Ziploc bag filled at the end, and he's like, dude, we go back to the States tomorrow. We can't bring this with us. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a horrible.
Oh my God, we're going to have to smoke it all night.
This is a horrible conundrum. Like, we cannot partake in this for more than one evening. Which leads me to another story that's not Canada related, but it involves a crew member. I won't say who for the sake of them, but they will. If they ever see this, they will laugh. But we were in always, in like Arizona or New Mexico or something like that. And it's in my mind, this is connected. I know it probably doesn't make sense to anybody, but to this specific person, it's like an inside joke and they'll get it. So I have to say it because it's funny and they'll laugh. We're in Arizona, and Brian, my bass player, and I, we're in the middle. There's like a venue and it's just desert. And we're like, okay, there's fucking nothing here. And we already played the show and there's nothing here. There's literally, like, you look around, it's just desert everywhere. And I say, like, we're starving, and he's got to use the bathroom. Like, where do we go? And they're like, oh, there's a Waffle House, like, 2.5 miles down the road. But our tour bus driver was already at the hotel. So we're just like, our tour bus is sitting in front of the venue. It's not going anywhere until 7 a.m. So Brian and I we just start walking. And we walk all the way down to the Waffle House, and we get there, and there's a sign on the door that says closed for cleaning. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? We just walked 2.5 miles, and we came. And what the fuck? So he's like, Brian's like, I gotta piss. I can't hold it in any longer. So Brian starts peeing in a bush. It's like this, like one lonely bush, like 20 feet from the Waffle House. And out of nowhere, a cop car pulls up. And I'm like, fuck. So I start walking quickly, and I'm like, Brian, zip up your pants. I don't pee all over yourself. Just keep walking back towards the bus. Because I'm like, I don't know the rules down here, And they go, hey, what are you doing? I was like, oh, nothing. We're just heading back. She's like, not you, the guy peeing. And I was like, fuck. They're going to get us on indecent exposure of all things. Like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, peeing in public. Come on, man. Like, there's nowhere to pee. And I just look, and I'm like, well, the Waffle House is closed. And the cop just completely switches gears. She's like, wait a minute, the Waffle House is closed? So her and her partner were going there to eat food, and they were like more mad that it was closed. So they bang on the door. They get it opened up. They don't arrest Brian. We go in and we eat with them. And then we go, it'd be a really funny prank if you drive us back to our tour bus, but put us in the back seat and pretend like we're under arrest. You'll scare the Jesus out of everybody on our tour bus. So we do this. We pull up. They got lights blaring. All I see, like at nighttime, it's like the desert. The venue's closed. It's probably 4 a.m. at this point. All you see is this big red Prevost tour bus, and just lights coming from the windows with silhouettes of people because the shades are down. And all you see is the cop car lights flashing. And you see the window blinds go up like this and go down. And then you just see all this hair just start running back and forth. Just running back and forth. So they finally walk back out. We explain to them that it's just a joke. And everybody leaves. And the cops are laughing. Everyone's laughing. And I look over and one of our crew guys is just staring at me, sweating profusely. And I'm like, what is the matter with you, dude? What's wrong? And he's like, I just ate every single narcotic that was on our bus. I don't know what to do. And I was like, oh my God. It was one of those things that's chess pieces. I didn't quite think that far ahead. I didn't think they would, go into panic mode. And I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense. Of course they would go into panic mode. Of course that would happen. That makes total sense. So, yeah.
That's so Cheech and Chong, dude.
Man, I fucking love that story.
Dude,
Was it a
that's
hot
an
police officer?
amazing
Did she have
fucking
titties?
What?
Was it a hot-looking policewoman?
What? I
You said it was a policewoman, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if she was particularly attractive or not. I mean, I was more jarred by she was trying to arrest my friend for peeing in public, and then we had a meal with her and her partner, and then they drove us in the back of the cop car. I mean, I don't particularly remember.
It could even got better if it was a porn story. Then they put us in the cop car and they had sex with us.
I was trying to get to that.
Is the police officer hot? Angel, put down the fucking Jack bottle. Bobby, put down the Dr. Pepper can.
It's the Natty Bow.
I mean, it was.
Angel,
real quick, buddy, let me jump in.
It's a good story.
I gotta hit the sponsors, buddy. Do you have a question of your own, my man?
No, that was my question.
All right, no worries. It's all good. So real quick, Walt, we always take a second to kind of do that whole station identification thing mixed with thanking our sponsors, our endorsers and stuff like that. And then we're going to hit you with a final round of questions. Are you cool for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, man. I got
awesome.
Plenty of Jack Daniels, plenty of Coca-Cola, and plenty of laughs.
Right on, man, for sure. No, we appreciate you kicking it with us, man. We've been having a great fucking time so far. Well, we want to take a second to thank Bradley Entertainment for being one of our sponsors and looking out for us. We really appreciate you, man. Saren Cadaver of Twisted Vines Horror Decor out of Rhode Island. And, of course, Levy Metal Enterprises, Levin Lewis, Custom Guitars and Stage Gear. We appreciate him so much. And we also want to thank Mark and Lizzie. They're alumni of the Metal Summit. They did an episode with us. They also clothe one of the hosts of this show, which is always greatly appreciated as well. So Mark and Lizzie, we really appreciate you guys so much as well. All of our sponsors, thank you guys so much. Anybody who wants to be involved with us, just reach out to one or all of us. We're happy to discuss. We definitely want to help people grow as we grow. And we definitely want to shout out to some fucking kind of liquor sponsors, because I think we've earned it after this episode for sure. So I definitely think it's about that time. But thank you guys all so much. And Bobby, I'm going to kick it down to you, brother, as we start our final round of questions.
Okay. So, with the holiday season coming around and me having a couple of beverages in me tonight. So, I always ask the most obscure question. So this one today for you, Walt. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which character can you relate to?
Anybody on the island of Misfit Toys.
Yes!
And why?
I mean, I think you don't get into music or performing or any type of band environment unless you feel like you come from an island of Misfit Toys.
Of course.
That's where, a hodgepodge collection of strange individuals.
Dude, the fact that he said that might have made Walt my favorite guest, since that's how I intro this show with all of us.
You got to think about it. To me, I want to be a dentist. I'm so Herbie.
Bobby, you really are, dude. You really are Herbie.
Damn, that's his last question.
I'll put you down for an appointment on Tuesday.
Yes.
Dude, that's fucking amazing. Jason, it's all you, brother.
Oh man, that was
And he's the sober one.
He's
No,
definitely the sober one.
that was probably one of the best stories I've ever heard. Of the
Same here.
the cops.
I'm always gonna remember that story.
I just. Oh man. So so let's see.
You got Jason flustered
Oh
now.
man, I'm just.
You know, all I was thinking about is like a naked cop, and you know.
All right, let's see. All right, really quick. If you could, I don't know if this was asked already or not, but if you could play anywhere, where would it be?
That ideal venue.
The ideal venue, yeah, exactly.
Somewhere played before, or somewhere I've
It's
never.
a large planet, but it's a small world.
Anywhere you'd want to play.
I'm going to get two answers. One, anywhere in South America, just because apparently I have a fan base there that I didn't know existed until a few years ago that has been growing and kind of on a very grassroots level. I don't know any venues there. I would just be interested, just because it's a place I've never been. And, you know, I've played all 50 states. I've played, you know, a bunch of different countries, just never been to South America. So I think that would be very interesting. The other one is somewhere I've been to multiple times. Silvertide has a following in Japan. It's one of my favorite places to go. You know, we usually played smaller venues there, like a Liquid Lounge in Tokyo, or hanging out at the Rock Bar in Osaka. But I think that there's this amazing thing with Japanese fans that just first time going there was floored. The last time I was there, I was floored. They have just a certain way of showing appreciation for music that is very memorable. So I think I would love to go there and just experience that. If I could get a dose of that every 5 years, I think I could die a happy man at 70 and be totally fine. If I did nothing else for 5 years, just go play 3 shows in Japan and then come home, I would be cool with that, because they just do things differently.
So in 5
very
years,
organized,
you'll be playing
very caring. Everything is thought out well. Say what?
No, I said. So in 5 years, you'll be playing Japan.
That'd be nice.
With a cop.
He'll be huge in Japan.
You laugh now, but I'm going to have a cop uniform on in 5 years.
That's fucking.
Then you'll be really confused. Just be like, who's this long-haired? Oh, that's a guy. That's not a girl.
That's that hot chick cop.
It's interesting that
Nice,
you say
dude,
Japan, because it's like a lot of people migrate towards Japan when the place that they want to go and play.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening is they are a big consumer of American rock music. So a lot of you know, I always love playing England, and you know, I did a whole television tour with Santana. I was filling in for Steven Tyler, and I had a blast doing that. But they were like television shows where it was just like me and Carlos Santana and his band playing one song, and you had to stay there for 3 hours and, you know, wait, and they would be like, play now. You know, it was like very a formulated thing. It was a great experience, but the Japan was like a dance between myself and the audience. And I think that there's this very strange thing there. If you've ever seen the Rage Against the Machine live in Mexico City concert,
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it? It's like when the crowd starts like jumping up and down together, and it's almost in like a unison wave, and it's fucking insane to watch. It was like my band's version of that experience. And, you know,
Wow.
they had way more people and they had a large history and all that. But for us, that was a really big moment for us as a band. We had you know, the first time there, we sold out a 1,000-seat club. So to us, you know, there were cities in the U.S. we couldn't do that in. So for that to happen, it really left a mark on me. I know for certain it left it on my bandmates because we've discussed it numerous times. And there was a reason why we went back numerous times, you know, because they make it possible. The fan base makes it possible. They love American rock music. They love to show that they love American rock music. And yeah, I love them for that. It's awesome.
That's awesome for sure, man. So I'm going to let Angel and the fans close out the show. But the last thing that I'm going to hit you with, man, is I got like 2 small questions for you because one's kind of a quickie and one's more of a curiosity question because the fans are going to want to know. When it comes to the quickie questions. All right, cool. So let me slide in here for you real quick there, Walt, and give you a quickie right quick. So when it comes to that, what do you have going on for Thanksgiving? Of course, we know when it comes. Of course, you know, dude, when it comes to like
yeah,
I can play that game too.
No,
when it comes to
our clothes off.
Well, what do you got going for Thanksgiving? We know when it comes to COVID, there are limitations, but what are you doing for the holiday?
Wait, Walt froze.
Well, hey, let's give it just a second because he has been on his phone. It's very possible that his phone might have just crapped out on him. Oh, yeah. So real quick, guys, what do you all have going on for the holiday season?
I'm going to my sister's, you know, gonna, you know, do the whole quiet 4 or 5 people, you know, family only, you know, that's it, you know, just us and a bird.
Absolutely. Jason, what do you got going on for the holiday, bro?
We're just gonna stay home and do it ourselves here.
Cool, man. So. Absolutely. Angel?
I'm going down to South Jersey to see my mom and see my family as well.
Nice.
And after I drop off my mom, see if I can find me a busty policewoman that can take me in.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely love that. I'm actually going to be spending Thanksgiving with our sponsor, Brad Lee, and his wife, Angie. So I'm actually going to be spending some time with that. But hey, since we've gotten into like froze mode with Walt, why don't we just go ahead and put a wrap on this? Fans, we thank you guys all so very, very much. We will give you guys a follow-up on exactly what happened with Walt. We know that everything's super duper cool. We might have just had a little connection issue with him. But since it's getting towards the top of the hour, why don't we just call it for the evening? Let everybody finish up with their evening. Get ready for Thanksgiving. So fans, we want to thank you guys so much. You've been fucking awesome as always. We love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in for Walt Lafty's episode. Singer, songwriter extraordinaire when it comes to Silvertide. Bobby, we thank you so much for that. And again, thank you guys all so much. Guest announcement coming up on Friday. We got a really cool one for you guys next week to kick off December and the Christmas season. Think you guys will be super stoked. But again, for the Metal Summit, for Psycho Steve, for Angel, for Jason, for Bobby, I'm Jay. And again, for Walt Lafty, thank you guys all so much. We love you. We'll see you next week. This has been the Metal Summit.
Yeah.